Jesus does not say, become the salt of the earth. He does not say, try to be salt. He says, you are the salt of the earth. Present tense, indicative mood. Not a command, not an aspiration, a statement of identity. That word choice is deliberate. But to understand what Jesus is saying, we need to understand what salt actually was in the first century world, because it was not primarily a condiment. It was not something you sprinkled on food to improve the taste. In the ancient Mediterranean world, salt was the difference between a fish that lasted a week and a fish that rotted by tomorrow. Salt was a matter of survival, and that changes everything about what Jesus means. The Greek word is halas, and it carried layers of meaning that a first-century Jewish audience in Galilee would have recognized immediately. Salt was the primary preservative of the ancient world. Before refrigeration, before any modern method of food storage, salt was how you kept meat edible on a long journey and fish marketable after the catch. It did not enhance the food. It arrested the decay that would otherwise destroy it. Salt did not make a rotting fish better. It stopped the rot. Salt was also currency. The Latin word salarium, from which we get the English word salary, referred to the salt ration given to Roman soldiers as part of their pay. Salt was so valuable it was used as wages. To call someone not worth his salt was a serious insult, and salt was covenant. In Numbers 18, God establishes a covenant of salt, permanent, incorruptible, unbreakable. Every grain offering in the Levitical system was to be seasoned with salt. Salt represented what did not decay, what held, what lasted. It was the symbol of permanence in a world where everything else eventually rotted. Matthew 5:13 has a warning built into it that most English readings flatten. But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. The Greek word for loses its saltiness is Mōranthē, from moros, meaning foolish, dull, insipid. It is the word from which we get the English word moron. Salt becomes moronic. It looks like salt. It occupies the salt jar, but when it meets what it was made to stop, it does nothing. In first-century Palestine, this was a real phenomenon. Salt was often harvested from the Dead Sea region, mixed with other minerals. When the actual sodium chloride leached out through moisture or impurity, what remained looked identical but had lost its preserving power entirely. It was useless for food storage. The only thing you could do with it was throw it on the road as a surface hardener. Jesus is describing a specific failure mode, not a faith that has become obviously corrupt or visibly evil, a faith that has become so similar to its surroundings that it no longer does what salt does, that no longer arrests the decay it was placed inside to stop. Augustine understood the Church's role in civilization as precisely this preserving function. In the City of God, written as Rome collapsed around him, he argued that the Church did not exist to sanctify the empire or bless its power. It existed to carry something through the collapse that would otherwise be lost. The presence of believers in a society was not decorative. It was, like salt in meat, the thing that prevented certain kinds of rot from completing their work. Dorothy Sayers, writing in the 20th century, made the same point differently. She argued that a Christianity that had made itself agreeable, that had smoothed off every edge that might cause friction, that had accommodated itself entirely to the assumptions of the surrounding culture, had become exactly the salt that has lost its saltiness. It is the dogma that is dramatic, she wrote, a faith with no claims, no distinctives, no tension with the world around it, is not just ineffective. It is salt that cannot preserve anything. The preserving function requires the difference. Salt only works when it is genuinely different from what it is preserving. The moment it becomes indistinguishable from the meat, it has already failed. Jesus does not call his followers to be impressive. He does not call them to be powerful or influential or culturally dominant. He calls them to be salt, which means to be genuinely, specifically different in the particular ways that arrest the particular kinds of decay they find themselves placed next to. This is not the same as being difficult for the sake of it. Salt does not announce itself. It does not make the fish taste like salt. When it works correctly, you notice the absence of rot. You notice that something has been preserved that should have been lost. After 8 Beatitudes describing what this person looks like from the inside, poor in spirit, meek, merciful, pure in heart, a peacemaker, Jesus makes a claim about what that inside produces in the world. Not fame, not power, not a platform, a preserving presence. Something that, placed quietly in the middle of what is decaying, slows what would otherwise be inevitable. You are the salt of the earth, present tense. The question is not whether you will become it. The question is whether you are still salty.